Welcome to USB Hole, the podcast where we talk out of our asses. I'm Chill.
And I'm the child.
And today we are going to be talking about things that we did or said or thought or believed as kids that now are kind of weird or ridiculous.
Yes.
The example I gave on this was everyone thinking that it was illegal to turn on a light in a car when someone was driving. And then we later found out that our parents were lying to us because they just didn't want the fucking light on.
Yeah, because she gave me that example and I right away said, yep, my mom used to tell me the same thing because she can't see with the light on at night. So she would just say, it's illegal.
Yeah, now that I'm older and like drive, I can totally understand why they do it, because turning on that light completely blinds me, especially at night. Like, I already can't see when I drive at night. So turning on that light, like, we're probably going to get into a crash. So the easiest way to do it is lie to kids.
I always just say, I can't see with the light on, so it's dangerous, turn it off. So I'm just like lying, like it's dangerous.
I feel like as a kid, I would have understood that. I don't know why they felt the need to lie to us.
Yeah, then you go for your test and you're like, I thought it was illegal. I feel like they should make you do a driver's test at night instead of during the day.
I agree, because I feel like most of us would probably have failed it the first time. I don't know, back when I was 16. I think I might have been fine. Also, the lady who did my test, like, she was on a phone call the whole time. So she wasn't paying attention at all to what I was doing. So I probably could have passed. But she was just like, oh yeah, turn here. And then would go back to her phone call. And I'm like, okay.
That's dangerous.
It was very dangerous. I don't even know if they're legally allowed to like be distracted like that.
Oh, it disappeared.
You yawned and disappeared.
Yeah.
So what were some things you did or believed or thought?
Well, before we start, I just want to say it's a pretty cool shirt you got on there.
Oh yeah, you like that?
Yeah.
DJ Cat with the pizza.
It's so much cooler than I thought it was going to be when I ordered it.
The child got this for me for Christmas.
Yeah.
Because this is my 3 favorite things: space, cats, and pizza.
Yeah. I'm going to start with one that probably I feel like everybody thought at one time, you know, like the old, you can't eat a seed or you can't swallow your seeds because something will grow in your stomach. Like that
was number 1 on my list.
Yeah, like the seeds and gum, just like swallowing things in general. Like, the gum will stay in there forever, like you can't swallow it, or your seeds will just grow, like you just poop it out.
Like, where did that even come from?
2 minutes in, I already talked about poop.
But like, they're like, 7 years and the gum won't come out, it's gonna stick to your insides. Like, no, that's not how the inside of your body works. It's not really digestible, so probably don't swallow gum, but it's gonna come out just like everything else will.
Yeah, I want to know where. Yeah, the same thing. It's like 7 years. Like we should have looked up where these myths came from, or this crap we believed.
We talked out of our asses.
It's like the same thing. We grew up on different sides of the country, but believed the same bullcrap story. Like 7 years it'll take to get that gum out of there. But
you know, I'm not from California, right?
Yeah, but I grew up mostly in Florida and you grew up in Illinois. That's still like different sides of the country.
That's not across the country.
Top and bottom. I said different sides.
I feel like the Midwest is more like the South than if I grew up in the West. Like, me and you would have more similarities than if I grew up out in California, I think. If you count Florida as the South.
Because of the part of Florida that I grew up in, like I didn't grow up in like a really populated area of Florida.
Right.
But other parts of Florida would probably be different.
Yeah, like North Florida is probably more like Southern.
Yeah, like where,
based on being there
where
before.
I live,
I don't know.
Yeah, growing up, it was just like a bunch of retirees and rednecks.
Retirees and rednecks. That should be a show.
Yeah.
Anyway, another thing I found weird about what we did as a kid is waking up so fucking early for school. And now they're proving like starting school later would help kids retain more and help them like not be so damn tired throughout the day. And they still have to go in so early. Like, what time did your high school start?
I could not tell you that. I do not remember.
We started at 7:20.
We had 6 periods and then a lunch. They changed it partway through high school. They changed it and made everything 50 minutes with a 5-minute in between to get from one class to another, like to change the blocking to make it easier. But before that, they were just like random times. So essentially 7 hours, and I think we got out at like 2. So what time did we go? Like 7 maybe? I don't know.
Yeah, we were 7:20 to 2:15.
That's probably close to what ours was.
That's insanely early.
Yeah. And a lot of them were staggered here. They still are. Like certain schools start like they're staggered intervals so that the buses can accommodate them because we don't have enough for the amount of schools or whatever. So the times aren't all the same. Like all the high schools don't start at the same time. And like the same with elementary and middle or whatever. But because I worked at the elementary school, I would go into my school and then I wouldn't be done until the end of the day at that school. So I had like an extra 2 hours on my day, which was so stupid. If I could go back in time, I would not fucking do that. I would just like be a high schooler, just like be at high school with my high school friends.
Yeah, I did the thing
I would probably
where like
be skipping actually.
we had 8 periods in a lunch, and if like you had enough credits by your senior year, you could either come in a period late or you could leave a period early or whatever. So I did the leaving a period early, but then I did like helping out with the teachers, so I didn't actually leave early. But I don't understand because they've proven that like it should be switched because little kids will wake up earlier and older kids will wake up later. So yeah. Like our elementary school started at like 9. That would have been perfect for high school.
Yeah.
Like just roll up at 9 a.m. And why was lunch at 10 in the morning?
Right.
Like,
yeah.
I can't, you just ate breakfast.
Some kids would eat like we had like A through E lunch. So like you either ate at like 10 a.m. or you ate at 1:30 and then you went home at 2:30. Yeah. Like
it was ridiculous.
Yeah. They got to stagger it, but I mean like it just doesn't make sense.
And also, like, what if you had like gym class first period? Then you're having gym at like 7 in the morning, and then you're also sweaty for the rest of the day. There's so much about school that just doesn't make sense to me now. But like we didn't have
you probably
we had
like
showers.
Showered or changed your clothes.
No,
I never took gym.
They wouldn't let us use the showers. The showers were only for like athletes after school. I don't even know if they used it. Like they didn't even work, I don't think. So we weren't allowed to shower. Like we had gym and then we just went to class looking like a hot mess.
Our school, you got the option. Like you could, but you still only had 5 minutes to get from one class to the other. So like how you didn't have time. But I managed to get myself out of ever having to take gym. So I know I did not. Yeah.
The only time that we didn't have to take like an actual gym class was driver's ed and health class. And then I also took in junior year CPR class. So that got me out of like actual physical gym. And then the rest of it, I had to like actually work out. And there was a class to do sports, which was fun, but I kept hurting myself. And the gym teacher kept getting mad at me for it. So anyway, yeah, I could not get on gym. There was no way. Yeah, school is a mess. Like thinking back on everything, especially high school, it was a mess. And in elementary school, for some reason, I joined an underground beef jerky ring where this kid, I don't know where he was getting it from, but he would just come in with these huge ass beef jerkies, like the flat beef jerky, just one piece. And we would sell them for like $1 a piece. And I would help him sell. So he would give me one for free every day, or like 2 or 3 for free. I don't know. He would stock me up on beef jerky for helping him sell. And I was like, we're in 5th grade. We're 10 years old and we're just selling beef jerky out of his cubby. Like, what is this? Who was monitoring us? Because in elementary school, you don't go from class to class. You're just sitting in one classroom. So how did we not get in trouble?
You were just like straight up selling black market beef jerky.
Yes, for $1 a piece. That seems like a lot for 2001.
Oh my God.
What?
I was in high school.
Oh. I was, that was because that's when 9/11 happened. So I was in there until 2002. That's when I graduated elementary school.
Oh, he hit me.
We're not even that far apart in age.
It's far enough for like things like that to be addressed.
It's because middle school is so short that like the difference between middle or elementary and high school is so short because of that middle school, just 3 years.
Yeah. But as adults, our age difference is not that much, but like as teenagers, it would have been a huge difference in age.
Oh yeah. Yeah, definitely.
But while we're on the topic of schools, one of the other ones on my list, I think this is more of just like I didn't understand than necessarily somebody told me and I just thought it was dumb. But I'm going to put it on the public school system, but it might just be me being dumb. But through all of the times in elementary school and like in middle school that you took like human growth and development and you learned about like menstruation and that kind of stuff, I got my period the summer between 7th and 8th grade. No, excuse me, 6th and 7th grade. Was the first time I got it. I don't know how old I would have been at that time, but that's when I got it.
That's when I got mine.
So like the 3rd, 4th, 5th, and 6th grade, like human growth and development, like where girls learned about that kind of stuff. I 100%, like the first time I got my period, I was terrified because I had no idea what was going on. I got it for the first time in the middle of the night because the way that everything was taught to me, I thought you only had your period when you went to the bathroom. Like, I
wish.
Honestly, and like was my understanding that like you only bled when you went to the bathroom because they didn't teach us about tampons. It was just like you learned about pads. Or panty liners, but the way they explained it was
weren't
just
a big
like,
thing back then.
Yeah, it was just like, oh well, you just have this because in case you have an accident. So like I always thought, like up until that point, that you know like if you had to pee or it would make you have to go to the bathroom more often, but it wasn't. It was just people go to the bathroom because they want to change their hygiene products, but. So I thought it just made you go more often, and that's why you had the panty liner was in case you had an accident, not because you just fucking straight up are bleeding for multiple days. So the first time I ever had it, I was asleep. I got it in my sleep. And also, it's not always just straight up red blood. So it was like kind of had a brownish color to it the very first time, especially since it's like the first time. And I was away on vacation at my aunt's for the summer, and my sister was my sister is 2 school years older than me. So at that time she was like with the high school cool kids, like, so she was off with my cousins, like cool friends or whatever. And I was at the house still, like they got up early or whatever. And I was freaking out and there was no cell phones. And I was like, oh my God, something's wrong with me. So I got up and I went in the shower. I took a shower and I like washed my pants out in the sink or whatever. And I was like, all right, well, I guess I'll just like stay in here because I don't know what to do now. Something's wrong with me. And I was like too scared to like go tell my aunt something was wrong with me. So I waited till my sister got back and she like explained to me, no, you got your period. We'll go get you some pads. Like this is how it happens or whatever. But I'm like, I'm going to put that on the public school system, not on me being dumb, because that is genuinely what I thought. that you
I guarantee it was the public school system.
So I was terrified. I was like, but it's brown. I'm like, what's happening? Something's wrong with me. And she's like, nope.
You're fine.
Yep.
Just sucks for the next 40 years.
Yeah. So I legitimately believed that you only menstruated when you went to the bathroom. Like, that it wasn't a whole cycle that continued throughout.
Well, that
not just menstruated, proves... like you only bled.
Yeah.
Like everything else was going on or whatever, but yeah.
I believe it was the school system that failed you, because remember that they told us blood is blue until it reaches the outside of you, which was false. And then they also told us the food pyramid was how we should eat, and that had like 10 pounds of bread on it. So I don't understand where this bad information came from, because it's not like we went to school in the 20s. We went to school in the 90s. Like, we had that information, just someone decided not to check up on it. So school was full of a lot of dumb shit. But to go to something not school related, do you remember how prevalent in the 90s that quicksand was?
Yeah, we've talked about that before.
They've made us think that quicksand was going to be everywhere we walked, and we should all be terrified of it, and we need to know how to get out of it, which we told everyone how, even, I don't know if it was right. But that was insane how much we all were so terrified of quicksand.
And the stop, drop, and roll. Like, it is helpful information for if there is a fire, but it's definitely something that I feel like they made it seem like it was going to happen on a regular basis. That like at any point in time, you were just going to be on fire.
Spontaneously combusting everywhere.
Yeah. Like, I do know more than one person, unfortunately, who were in pretty bad fires, who were very badly burned. But like, they made it sound like it was like a all the time thing, like with the quicksand.
Yeah. Like, every year, I think we had to practice or have like, we would have like firefighters and police come to our school and like talk about all this. And then it's like, oh, maybe 0.01% chance you will ever be on fire.
Yeah.
I mean, I hope you're not, and please stop, drop, and roll if you are. But yeah, I think it was a lot more fear mongering than anything.
Yeah.
Also, if you passed a cemetery, you weren't allowed to breathe, or the ghosts will go up your nose. And like, I think that's what it was. I can't remember the story behind it, but I think it was like the ghosts will go up your nose and like possess you if you breathe.
Somebody told you that?
I don't know, but it's a thing that like you're not supposed to breathe. You're supposed to hold your breath when you pass cemeteries, and I'm just assuming that's why. But I never looked into it. You never heard that? That was huge.
No.
Okay, you tell me one and I'm gonna look this up.
Yeah, no, I've never heard that before. I've heard like the like similar myths that would be like, oh, when you drive over a bridge, you do this, or if you go over railroad tracks, you lift your feet, like for like a luck superstition type thing.
I've never heard that one.
I've never heard, but that, like I said, that's more like a superstition, not like something that you believe to be true or whatnot.
Well, these were probably superstitions, but as a kid, you believe it and you hold your breath. It says it's to keep you safe from wandering spirits. So yeah, I'm assuming that they'll fucking possess you.
Oh, I never heard that. So like every time you went near there, you were like thinking you were just gonna get possessed. That'd be scary as a kid to have to believe that.
I didn't know why. I just knew that I was supposed to hold my breath. So anytime like you would drive by a cemetery, you had to hold your breath until the cemetery passed.
Oh, geez.
Yeah. So if it was a big cemetery, like RIP.
You'd be also in the cemetery.
Yeah, that's how they get more people. Maybe the cemeteries made the myth because then people die holding their breath and they get more customers.
That reminds me of that lame joke my big uncle would always like, oh, yeah, they're a big cemetery. People are dying to get in there. Yeah, it was one of my uncle's favorite jokes.
Funny.
I mean, I don't know how edgy we want to get on this, but
I have a huge list of stuff. Talk about whatever you want.
Holidays. Well, this isn't edgy. This is less edgy than the other one. I'm just trying to hold back. Just like the things that as a child you believed about holidays, like that an Easter bunny came to your house and like hid eggs, or that like Santa Claus was there. I hope there's no little kids listening to this podcast, but like just the whole idea
Santa's real, like, if you are.
I stopped believing very early on, like when I was very young, because just the logistics for me. Like,
yeah, we didn't even have like, a chimney.
Yeah, well, they came in the front door. He had time for that. But the same thing, like, and on birthdays, my parents would do, they'd say the birthday bear came. So like we would leave to go to out. Yeah, exactly. We didn't go out to dinner often when I was a kid. But if it was somebody's birthday, we usually would go to dinner for a birthday. So at some point in time, I guess when we were getting in the car or something, one of my parents would put our presents out in the living room. And then when we get home, the presents were there because the birthday bear brought them. Like there was never an image of a birthday bear or anything like that. But yeah, we just like believed it for a short period of time that like that's where your presents came from. And like I would feel kind of guilty for like robbing my kids of like the little bit of fun that goes with like Santa or things like that. But I'm too much of a realist to like let a kid believe that. And like they say now, like, oh, if you know, when you're giving your kids presents, like if you're giving them this like big expensive gift, like put that it's from mom and dad, or like from mom or dad, or like whatever parent.
Don't give Santa the credit for your hard work.
Well, they say it like in society so that like one kid who's getting like barely like maybe Santa gave him socks and Santa gave his friend a game console.
So Santa doesn't prefer one person over another.
Yeah, so like that kid doesn't understand, you know, that kid's not like getting down on themselves because they're not understanding why they didn't get something as nice as their friend.
Yeah, because their parents don't have money.
I'm just like, I got that for you. Like you need to be grateful to me, or you need to be grateful to your uncle or your friend, or like to whomever gave it to you, so you could understand like being thankful and being grateful for what you get, and not an expectation. You could be thankful to Santa. But yeah, but like it's kind of just an expectation that you're gonna get something from Santa, because it's
you're getting coal if you're bad though.
You think anybody ever actually got coal?
I got coal. The fuck you mean?
You didn't get gifts one time? You just got coal?
No, I still got gifts, but they put coal in my Barbie dream house. So anytime you like opened up a door, there was coal. It was very mean. I cried.
Yeah, see, like, that's what I'm saying. Like, I'm not about that. I don't know.
I'm not going to have kids, so I'm not even going to think about it. This is just not taking up brain space. Like, if someone else's kids want to believe in Santa, I'll play along. I don't care. Not my problem.
My stepbrother, I'm gonna say he probably was probably fourth or fifth grade, and the teacher said something. It had to have been fourth. I don't think it could have been fifth. The teacher said something about Santa not existing or whatever, and he came home, and he at that point in time still believed in Santa. So then my parents had to like tell him about it, and then my mom went to the teacher, and she was like, that's not cool, dude.
I mean, I understand if the teacher doesn't care or like they don't think their kid should have it, but why are you going to ruin it for other people's kids?
Yeah. Especially like, yeah, that might be a little old still, but like you can't just assume that they don't yet. I don't know. Just like,
I wouldn't assume till high school.
You don't want to ruin it. Like let the parents deal with it, or let the kid figure it out.
Yeah. That's their problem, not yours.
That same brother and I, we set up the big, like the big shoulder. Well, you can't see me because my hands.
Yeah, video camera.
Big shoulder video camera. We hid it one year to try to catch
Sneaky.
Santa. Yeah. And I think it was that same year, like to try to prove if he was real or not. He was older than me. So, but we hid it, and like we didn't tell my parents that we were hiding it. So to this day, like I don't know if they knew that it was there. And I don't know what was recorded, because that year our house was broken into 4 days after Christmas, and they stole the video camera, and the tape was in it. So my brother and I never got to watch the tape to see if my parents knew the camera was there or if we just saw them putting the gift. You know what I mean? So like,
I feel like I want you to ask your mom because that would be funny. And now we don't have closure because the asshole took it.
Well, I've told them about it, but I don't know. She doesn't remember. You know what I mean?
That was a while ago.
Yeah, like we talked about it after the fact. That same year when like all I cared about was my tea set. I was like, oh my God, I hope they didn't steal my tea set. Because I was little, you know what I mean? I got this new cool tea set for Christmas. And my mom's like, they don't care about your
tea set. Get the fuck out of here.
But I mean, I was like 7. I didn't understand.
Yeah, you can't blame me.
But yeah, so it was really disappointing that we never got to watch that video.
We'll never know.
Yeah.
On the same note of like creepy live shit that's not real, did you ever think that like your dolls were gonna come to life and like do something, I don't know, something bad, but just they're doing creepy shit while you're not looking?
Not in a creepy way, but I did like sometimes when I was very young think like, oh, what if your stuffed animal is like kind of like in Toy Story, but Toy Story didn't exist then, but like that, like, oh, are they alive when you're not like when you're not around? Do they come to life and they like talk to each other? Or like when you move them from one side of the room to the other, like are you taking them away from your friends and stuff like that? But no one ever told me that was true. It was just some stuff that I sometimes would think about. But I think that's just like the empath in me, and I just feel bad for inanimate objects.
I thought they were doing creepy shit. So when I wasn't using them, they all went in my closet and I turned them around so they couldn't look at me. And then when I was like maybe 10, between 10 and like 12, I asked my mom for a ventriloquist dummy because I wanted I wanted to learn how to talk with it. And after like they still had the Sears and JCPenney catalogs that you could like go through at Christmas and circle what you wanted. So I did that, and my mom got me the dummy.
I like that note for our young listeners who don't know what catalogs are.
You have no idea what I'm talking about. Yeah. It was huge for Christmas.
Yeah. Yep.
Like I would go through and circle every single thing I wanted. So my mom had options. Anyway, so I told her I wanted this. And then maybe like a few weeks before Christmas, I was like, you know what? I don't think I want this thing anymore because it's fucking creepy. And she was like, well, I already bought it for you because they were in high demand that year for some reason. And I already
That's like some R.L. Stein shit right there.
Well, that's the thing. I think Goosebumps fucking freaked me out. So I didn't want it anymore because that was around the time that Goosebumps came out. Or that's like funny. That specific book.
I literally just bought that Goosebumps book for Nina on Sunday. Yeah, I was at the store and they had it. So
she's like 2. You're gonna give her nightmares.
No. For when she's older. My sister had every single Goosebumps book. Actually, she had every single R.L. Stein book, and they were all packed up. Like, because my mom likes to keep stuff, But she was like, things like that. Like, you have a whole collection. She would keep them. Well, my sister wanted to take them to her house a couple of years ago because she was like, oh, I'll take them to my class library so the kids could read them. Well, it's irrelevant now because this is Florida and you can't choose what's in your class library anymore. But to get less political, her water heater burst and they all got destroyed.
Oh, no.
Yeah. So
I loved Goosebumps.
Yeah.
But that shit creeped me out. And so that was in my closet, doors shut, facing away, because even the box had a picture of him. So I had to face him away. And I think I took him out once and then never touched it again. I think my mom like ended up throwing the ventriloquist dummy out because like it scared both of us. I don't even think she wanted it in the house, and she was a full ass adult. They are super creepy. Never again. And I don't even know anyone who owns one, so staying far away from those. Very creepy.
What else you got? I only have like one more, and it's like that controversial one that I said I didn't know how edgy you wanted me to be able to get in this.
Well, I have about 12 more, so we can just go through mine real quick.
Yeah.
What was up with those metal slides that they used to put at parks that like the sun would shine for 5 minutes and all of a sudden you were on fire?
And your ass would just bleed as you slid down
Yeah.
it. Yeah.
Who thought that was a good idea?
Your
Like
skin would just melt off.
2 seconds, you could have just looked at that and been like, that's not smart. I couldn't even wear shorts to the park. My grandma would be like, don't forget, put on pants because we're going to the park with the death slide.
Yeah.
I'm glad that
not well
they
thought
don't
out.
do that anymore. No. Did you ever do that little like S thing that everyone did? Why did we do that? Where did that come from?
I don't know, but it's still going strong all over the internet.
And I still do it sometimes if I'm like bored in a meeting or something and I'm just writing stuff. Like, I don't know where that came from. And it really worked for me because my name started with an S.
So you can use it.
Yeah, I could use it. But like, why did we all do it?
I don't know where that came from.
I don't either, but it was fun. Did you ever do the thing where like you would erase your skin with an eraser?
No.
Oh, that came about. We were probably in high school at the time, so you might have been out of high school by then. But we would literally
I was definitely out of high school by the time you were in high school.
Would you have been like a freshman in college when I was a freshman in high school?
What year were you?
I don't remember what year you graduated. 05.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So yeah, we would take the eraser and just like literally erase our skin until the first layer of skin started coming off.
Ooh.
Why did we do that?
That sounds painful.
It was extremely painful, and I don't understand why we did that. We were all a bunch of masochists, I guess.
I never did that, but my sister and I did used to sew our fingers together. But that wasn't like a thing. Fingers? Sew our fingers. Like other people didn't do it. My sister and I would just put the needle through like the top layer of our fingertips. My God,
that's something like that's on my list.
And then with the thread, and then we'd sew it to the other one. Yeah, and we would just sew all 5 fingers together, and then be like, "High five!" What the fuck is wrong with you? Whoa, we're weird kids.
Well, on my list, I used to take thumbtacks and put them in my fingers so that they were hanging off. Ugh. My fingers like sticking out. That's not as bad as yours.
So much worse. That is so much worse.
How?
Ours would go through like
you were going through a whole finger.
No, like the very tip, like the outer layer of skin.
Thumbtacks stay on very easily. I would just do the very outer layer. That's painful. That's not worse than yours. Write us at Chill and what is it?
At Chill and Child.
Which one's worse? Twitter. Because we're both only going through the first layer of skin, but you are actually putting something through it, whereas I was just hanging tacks off of it.
Yeah, but I mean, you know how thin thread is. Whatever. It's something we used to do. It was really stupid.
I think we just all like putting shit through our skin.
We didn't get that from anyone, though. I think we just did it randomly for some reason.
I was like, oh, look, this barely hurts. And just stuck them in, like, whatever. Because we used to do the thing where, like, you would clip those little clips onto your hand and stuff, and that would kind of hurt, too. We just all like pain.
Yeah.
Fucking
just
weirdos.
Clip and binder clips on yourself.
It's like we would also all crack our knuckles, and they told us it would give us arthritis.
Yeah, which it doesn't.
No, that's
I mean,
not
true.
I
do have arthritis, and I crack my knuckles a lot, but it's unrelated. Yeah.
We found out in like middle school because our teachers would always yell at us, and I think it was just because they hated the noise. But there was like the meanest teacher I ever met. Some of the middle school teachers were just so mean, and I don't understand why. But it's like, well, don't teach middle school. Like, you know, middle schoolers are gonna be assholes. Yeah. You signed up for this. Anyway, so this lady would be like, you're gonna get arthritis. And I'm like, what do I care? Like, I'm 12. And she would freak out, and she was like, look, his hands are all bloody. And he would like, this kid would always do it, and his hands were bloody, like his knuckles, because he had such dry skin that he would crack the skin open. And she like grabbed his hand and was like, look. And I'm like, can you not like let him go to the bathroom or the nurse or something? Like, those she was unrelated, a psycho. Though. But like she was trying to use that to like scare us into thinking like this is going to happen if we crack our knuckles. And I was like, that boy needs a nurse, so maybe let him go. Like, some of those teachers were psychos.
Middle school was weird.
So
some
weird.
teachers were awesome and some were horrible. My 6th grade English teacher also wound up being my freshman in college English teacher, like English Comp 1 and English Comp 2, like my first 2 semesters of English in college. It was the same teacher. Like, she was my professor in college, and she fucking hated me from middle school. Yeah.
Wah, wah.
Yeah.
I mean, middle schoolers are assholes. You can't hold that against them when they're like 19, 20 years old.
But I wasn't an asshole. What happened was we had this like English assignment, or like we did these vocabulary word things, and like you had to do like these 4 different parts of it. I don't remember what the parts were. You had to like draw a picture, use it in a sentence, write the definition, and like something else. And it was like this whole little thing you had to do for all these words every week.
Boring.
Well, yeah, but I like vocabulary. Like, that's my jam. But anyway, I guess like I only vaguely remember it, but she accused me and this other girl of cheating because our stuff was too similar. But I'm like, well, first of all, like, it's a word and it has a definition, and if everyone's using the definition, of course they're going to be similar. But anyway, sometimes I would get help from other kids, but that girl that she accused of cheating with me had absolutely nothing to do with any of it. And like that one particular time I did not cheat. But like there were other times where I was just like, well, how do you, like, what's the definition or something, where like, but then somebody will tell you and then you have to figure out your own way to like make a sentence or whatever the thing was. I don't really
It's like
remember.
working together.
Yeah. So anyway, she like accused us of cheating, like gave us a 0 and then like sent it to the principal or something. And I don't really, like I said, this is like so vague because I don't remember. It was really stupid. But then like the principal wound up coming into the class with the things and made the teacher apologize to us in front of the class for accusing us of cheating, and was like, you know, you could tell by looking at these, yeah, they're similar, but they're not similar enough to where one person copied off the other. And so like you need to apologize to the students. So so then she didn't like me because like she had to do that. But I'm like, I didn't tell her she had to do that.
Like, yeah, we hold kids responsible like that all the time. Adults should be held to the same principles.
So like I still really don't, like, I don't know how it went down the whole thing, because it wasn't like I didn't go home and be like, oh mom, she accused me of cheating, blah blah blah, like all of that, you know.
Just sounds like the principal was a good guy.
I don't really know like what happened there. So, but yeah, so, and then my sister had her for English in high school, or she might have had her for English in college too. No, because my sister didn't take classes when she was in high school. I took college classes when I was still in high school. But at some point in time, my sister also had her after me. So then like my sister had the stigma from my last name, where normally it was, yeah, she was older than me. So then like when people would see my last name, because we were the only kids in school with that last name, you know,
you'd have to live up to whatever she did.
Yeah. So it was like reversed for that one thing. So then like by college English, I was fucked.
Well, good thing you were good at English. So.
Yeah, exactly.
It was crazy because my history teacher in 8th grade was my aunt's history teacher when she was in middle school. And my mom was like 6 of 6 kids. So she was already younger than everybody. And then she had me when she was like 29. So my teacher had my aunt like 40 years before he had me.
Oh, gosh.
Yeah. So he was old as shit. But he didn't look that old. So I was shocked, like when my aunt said that she had him. I was like, what? Because it was crazy when I had teachers my brother had, and he was only 12 years older than me.
Yeah.
But then to have a teacher my aunt had, that was insane.
Yeah. Oh, that brings me to another thing that wasn't on my list, but now I'm thinking about it. Like we were led to believe that grades mattered so much for your future. They don't fucking matter. Your GPA doesn't matter after you graduate. Like your SAT scores don't fucking matter. Like,
or ACT.
Yeah, that shit doesn't matter. It only matters for getting into a good college, which is fucking irrelevant anyway, because you don't need college to be able to be successful, depending on your field. And
if you do, you could go to a state school. It's
like that
way
shit,
cheaper.
Yeah, it's stupid. That shit
Yeah,
bothers me.
the only thing that the ACT score got me was like out of certain classes in college. So like I had ACT and I had my AP math class that I took in high school. Those two things got me out of like certain classes in college. But after like the first couple of years of college, even those didn't matter anymore.
Yeah.
So like my GPA, I don't think ever mattered. I don't even know what it was. And my high school did it out of 5 instead of 4. So if anyone wanted to know what my actual GPA was out of 4, they had to do math. Because
That's
for
weird.
some reason, our stupid high school did it out of 5. I don't know why. But it made my GPA look higher. So whatever. I had like a 4.4 or something out of 5. So
yeah, where it just looked like you had a 4.4 GPA.
Yeah, like I was getting A pluses everywhere.
I like my SATs. I fucking tanked my SATs. I took them when I was a junior, and I never took them again because I didn't care. It was like it was a high enough score to get into college, and I wasn't trying to go to like an Ivy League or like some special fucking school. So I was like, that's not worth my time and energy. No. I'm not taking that again.
I got a 27 on the ACTs and I was like, baller, let's go.
I didn't even take the ACT. Wasn't required. I didn't take it.
Oh, well, ours was required. I never took the SAT.
Yeah.
Just depends on where you lived.
Yeah. I think it was certain schools required both and some required one or the other. So I was like, no, I'm not taking that.
No. NIU took whatever the fuck you wanted to give them. So
yeah.
And I think it was like you needed an 18 on the ACT and I had a 27. I was like, whatever, let's go.
I'm not a test taker and I'm definitely not a standardized test taker.
Nope.
All you have to do is change the words up. And I'm like, I no longer know the answer to this question.
Yep. I'm gone. I'm out.
Yeah. So
like I'm surprised I got mostly A's in school because those tests guessed on everything.
Yeah. I got primarily straight A's. Like
I did mostly B's.
Yeah, I did very well in school. Just tests were not for me. So like I was very lucky and like I don't know what it's like for everybody else in the world, but just based on like TV and movies where people have like their midterms and their finals and all that, we didn't have that at our school.
Weird.
Like in my high school, we did not have midterms. We didn't have finals. It was just
jealous.
Everything was based on semesters. Like certain like elective courses were like quarters and everything else was semester. So you just did you did a semester of one thing and a semester of another thing. And you didn't have to do like testing out of the classes or anything like that. Because I mean,
that's how we did a semester of one thing, a semester of another. I don't understand how it's different.
But we didn't have to test out or like do midterm tests on everything. You just did like regular tests throughout the semester.
I mean, midterm and finals were just considered regular tests that were weighted a little higher. We didn't have to test out of anything. It was either you passed the class or you didn't. I mean,
yeah,
you got an A,
we didn't
B,
have
C,
them
or
at
D.
all. Yeah.
I mean, they were considered regular tests. They were just like, instead of a regular test being like 5%, it would be like the final was like 8% or 10% instead. So it just affected your overall grade. It wasn't testing out of anything. If you got an A, you got an A regardless of how you did on the final.
Yeah, we didn't have to do like all right, do you remember everything you learned this whole fucking year? Now we're going to give you a test on something you learned 6 months ago. We didn't have to do that.
Surprisingly, most of my teachers didn't do that either. Like our finals would be the last thing we learned. So it'd just be the last test, but they had to call it a final. Some teachers did do the whole semester worth, but I would say in my high school, most of them did not because they knew that wasn't fucking fair.
Just stupid. Anyway, what else you got on your list?
Waiting 10 hours for a song to download on LimeWire just for it to become porn. You know how many fucking times I did that? You know how crazy that is to think about? Because back then, all of our stuff was separate. We had a phone, we had a GPS, I had like a Garmin for my car, and then we had an iPod for our music. So I would wait 10 fucking hours for the song to download, and it would be porn, and I start clicking on it, and then I get viruses. Like, what is that?
That's another one of those things where it's like our age isn't really that far off, but it's a difference between the two of us.
You didn't have LimeWire?
I had LimeWire, but I would have been in my 20s.
No way. Because we had LimeWire when I was living at my old house and I was like 8 or 9. So you would have been like 13.
We had like iPods and all that like only the super rich kids, like my senior year of high school, would have had an iPod. And they would have been like the big ones.
iPods came out when I was 9. I am looking at it right now. I did not have one when I was 9. I probably didn't have one until I could afford my own. So I would have been like 15. I don't know though. I might have gotten one when I was younger than that. Like, what, you don't believe me?
No, I'm looking it up. LimeWire came out in 20, but it wasn't something that we used here.
In 2000.
That's what I meant when I said 20. 20 plus 2 extra zeros. Like,
so I was 9.
My senior year of high school, I had the Nokia brick phone. Like, those were the phones that we still had.
So did I. I had that when I was like 13. I had a BlackBerry.
Yeah, I think like Blackberries started being more popular towards the end of me being in school for, like, again, the really rich kids that would have the nicer stuff. But like,
and then I had one like 3 years after when they finally got cheaper.
Yeah, we didn't have that then, but it wasn't like, it's different now because like everybody has phones. Like, even kids who don't have a lot of money, they still have like most of them still have phones. That wasn't a thing then.
Yeah, everything was separate, and now like you don't need to have an iPod. Do they even make them still? You don't need to have an iPod. You don't need to have a GPS, a separate GPS system. You don't need to have a flip phone and all that crap. Like, it's all in one place. And that's crazy. Like, that was such a short period of time, I feel.
They went by they progressed very quickly.
Yeah, especially since like you, I had the cheap ass shit, like the knockoff shit, because I was a few years younger than you. And my mom just wanted me to have something for like emergencies. So I did get a phone when I was like 12, but it was that Nokia phone. And I didn't get the BlackBerry until I went to college. And like some of the kids I knew had iPhones like end of high school, because that's when they started coming out. But I also lived in like a super rich suburb. So all the kids I knew had them, and I was still like repping a giant flip phone and all that. So like I started late on the game, and I was still using the iPod and still using that Garmin and everything, but it was just such a hassle because the Garmin wouldn't even work right unless you updated it, and I didn't even have a computer I could update it on. Like, it was so cheap and nothing worked. And then you would use the Garmin, and like streets that were new were not on it because I couldn't update it. So I would get lost all the time. I was like, this is ridiculous. And I was like 20 years old. So that was only a decade ago.
Yeah. When I was 21, I was living with Brandy, and I lived together then. And she got a Garmin. And that was the first, like, I didn't have it, but we would often go places together in her car. And so it was like the first time that like we had a GPS, but I didn't have my own GPS until I was probably 23. And I got one that I bought from one of the girls at work. She got a new one. So she sold me hers for like $50, but it was that same big block Garmin.
Yeah, the big block one. I think I got it for Christmas from my parents and I think they went in on it together because back then those things were kind of expensive.
Yeah.
But I was in like a traveling bowling league. So they wanted me to have it because I would drive there by myself at like 16 years old. So they wanted me to have the Garmin so that I wouldn't get lost because we didn't have all we have now. I had a cell phone. I could call people, but like, why even make it that hard for yourself?
Yeah.
So I did have one as a teenager, but it was only pretty much all that was for safety reasons at that point. Remember MapQuest? My mom would like print out actually I printed it out. I shouldn't even say my mom. I printed it out and used it.
Yeah, we did MapQuest, straight up actual map books.
I never had to learn to read a map, and to this day that shit still confuses me. I could probably do it if I had to, but
when we would go on, like if we went on trips or anything, like when we were younger, we would get like an actual map, like, and we'd have to like pull it up and look at the thing and like find all the directions. And then when they started having the map books, it would be like to local areas. So like that's what we had here. So like because I started working at that first flower shop when I was 13, and then on holidays and stuff, my sister would come in. She was 16, she would drive, and I'd go with her and we do deliveries. And so that's when I started learning them. And then like you had to find where houses were to route the drivers by using the map books.
Oh yeah, my dad used to be like a taxi driver and like delivery and stuff, and a limo driver and all that crap. So he had those map books, and I would just read them for fun. My brother, though, he's the type who could memorize like a dictionary. Mm-hmm. So anywhere we go, doesn't matter what part of the US, anywhere we go, he never has to look at a map. He just goes.
No, see, in other places I would have to, but for like local, like it's just disgusting that I can tell you where stuff is and how to get there and things like that.
I mean, back home I could have done that, but in California, we use the map all the time because one, I don't know where the hell anything is.
Yeah.
Still. And two, there's so many highways, like it's just easier to find the fastest route by using a GPS. Like the fastest route normally could be the 5, but then you have one accident on the 5, like the one last week where the car was on fire, and that shit could take you like 2 hours to get through.
Trash. All right, you got another one?
Boy, do I. Remember having to blow on games to make them work, and then people telling us you shouldn't do that because you're just getting spit all inside your games?
Yeah.
That was so funny. Like I don't know, how did anyone realize that worked? Is that like the thought now that we use compressed air?
I thought that the reason, like what they would say was the reason back then on why you blew on it was like, oh, there might be dust on it, and that's what's causing it not to read it right. So like you blow the dust off. Other than that,
so like using compressed air now.
Yeah.
But then they said not to do it because all the spit in your mouth would get like all up in there.
I still blow on my SNES ones. All right, so my last one could be controversial, and I don't like, I'm going to say it, and it's my own personal feelings and beliefs, and I'm not knocking anyone else's personal feelings and beliefs, but for me personally, the biggest thing, like from the whole like things that we believed as a child, that now that we're adults, we're like, how did we believe that? Or like, how did people tell us that? For me, it's religion. Specifically the religions that I grew up being taught. Again, I don't know for other people. Like, my brother is Muslim, so like I know a lot about Muslim culture, but not enough to form an opinion on the same thing. Like, oh, how could you tell me that? And people believe it, whatever. Like, some of it, same thing, pretty whacked out to be, like I said, I'm more of like idealistic and I need like solid concrete proof and stuff like that. But again, back to for myself, like when I was a child and I thought, oh, well, we can't eat this food if we don't thank God for it first, because otherwise I'm going to go to hell and I'm going to burn there for eternity. And like, I guess I could have used that stop, drop, and roll stuff we learned about while I was burning in hell. But just that all resonated with me really hard, like, and how I chose to do things throughout my life. And like when I was a child up until pretty much high school, and then like a lot stronger after high school, just a lot of the things that we were told, and, you know, just even thinking a sexual thought made you like a dirty, unclean person that, again, was going to burn in hell. And it really affected me a lot as a child. But I don't know how to like put most of it into words without being too controversial, because again, I don't want to like say negative things about other people's beliefs, because to each their own, in my opinion. And if that's what you believe, then that's for you and not for me. But
well, the thing
that's
about
the
being a
biggest
child
for me.
The thing about being a child is their brains are mush, and you're trying to form it to become who they are going to be as an adult. And a lot of these religions, it feels like the way they're bringing up their kids is based on manipulation and guilt.
Yeah, because you're not allowing them to make the decisions to believe that. You're telling them this is the end all be all of the truth. Not this is one way to think about life and to think about religion and the world and the universe, and like this is one way that you could choose to follow or learn about, and if you believe it, then that's for you. But it's just told this is how it is. And as a child, I just find that incredibly complex, that you expect a child to just be able to, well, I guess they don't expect you to form your own opinions, because they want, because they tell you and you're a child, so you just believe whatever they tell you.
Exactly. It's a self-fulfilling prophecy. It's selfish as fuck.
Yeah.
And so a lot of people will christen their babies when they're a couple weeks old. Like, that baby has no way to consent to this. People get mad when other people like pierce their baby's ears, but they're christening them at 2 weeks old.
Yeah, you just gave that baby to the Lord without asking that baby if they want to be given to the Lord. And like, for me, it kind of goes back to where we started this whole thing with the example of the light in the car. We just thought, like, our parents told us that was the truth, so we believed it for a long time.
Yeah, because they're our parents.
That's how I feel about our religion. And I just feel like, from the child perspective, like, it's crazy to think that it just is because somebody tells you that it is.
Right. And obviously not all people are like this. Not all religions are like this. I went to a Baptist church when I was younger, and I never got baptized, but I went to mostly Baptist churches. And when I would ask questions, they would say, well, what do you think? What is your opinion on this? And how do you feel about it? And I would say one thing that maybe wasn't the same as what they said. And they're like, that's all right. Feel the way you want to feel and think the way you want to think. And that's how it should be. They should be there to help answer your questions and foster your interest, but they shouldn't be there to push an agenda on you.
Yeah, we didn't have that in the church that I grew up in. It was just that's
most churches don't. Yeah.
And which is why I say, again, for other people, that's your belief, and I respect you. But just the concept of like letting a child learn and make decisions for themselves on what is and isn't the truth, that's a complex thought.
Yeah, that's why my parents didn't baptize me. They were like, she should be able to make her own decision. Because my dad mostly grew up Catholic. He knew he didn't want me to be Catholic. And my mom didn't really grow up anything, but she became Baptist. So it was like, just let her do whatever she wants, because there's no one right or wrong.
Yeah. So like you were saying, like, kids' minds are mush, and, whatever you say is just kind of like goes into them, and it becomes ingrained in them until they're old enough to start thinking and learning for themselves on what is and isn't the truth. So I feel like, again, like, I don't have kids, but if I did, and even like with my friends' kids, some of my friends are very religious and some are not at all. And I don't, like, when they talk to me about that kind of stuff, I have a conversation with them, but I don't put my beliefs on them, and I don't tell them like, oh, that's not real, or I feel like it's not real. So I feel like if I had a child, I would allow the child to grow up and decide for itself, because like when it ultimately comes down to it, regardless of their whatever your religion is, like, you going a certain amount of years without having that in your life and then finding it, like, you're not like that's not going to affect you, because you're going to get to the place where you need to be for your specific religion to be able to be on your path to righteousness, whichever it may be. Right. But I don't feel like it's okay to just tell the child this is the truth. Like, so for me, again, personally, like, I'm not, like, if that's your religion and that's what you believe as an adult, like, that's fine. That's for you. That's your beliefs. It's not mine. I'm not saying you're wrong. I'm just saying that's not mine. But I don't think that it's okay to tell a child that this is what you have to do or you're going to burn in hell. Like,
yeah, that's fucked up. Because I understand there's a ton of families who are very religious, and of course it's hard to not put your kids into that bubble because that's how you live. So if someone is, say, in a vegan household, they're just going to cook vegan food. So your kid will probably, at least in the beginning, be vegan. Or you're in a religious household, your kid is probably going to be religious. The problem is, like you said, telling them they're going to burn in hell if they don't do this, guilting and manipulating them. If you just leave them to their own devices and let them search out their own questions and answers and give them every side of the story and give them all the education possible so that they can make their own decision, and then not disowning them when it's not the same as yours.
Yeah. You can give your child guidance without giving your child absoluteness.
Exactly. And I don't think you should tell any child that they're going to burn in hell for anything they do, regardless of how bad or good it is.
Yeah. Like, we usually, again, because this is, aside from the fact that it's supposed to be a comedy-centric podcast, we try to steer clear of some hot ticket items that we just don't want to bring controversialness into. We're just here to have a good time type of thing. So we kind of generally steer clear of these big ticket topics, I guess you could refer to it as. But again, like, just to say again, like, I'm not saying you're wrong and I'm right. Like, I have some friends who are, a friend of mine, she's a very, very, like, devout Catholic. The way she was raised and what she learned and what she knows, she's 76 years old. We have very different views. And I'm like, though I don't believe the things that I was taught when I was growing up in the religion and the churches that I went to, what I was taught about God is very drastically different than what she was taught about God, even though they're both Christianity views. So I'm like, she believes that, like, she's like, no, God is spiteful and vengeful, and if you don't do what he says, he's going to smite you and you're going to suffer and blah 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 blah, whatever. And like, even though again I don't believe it, and that's not, my views, the churches that we went to, like, God was a forgiving being, and you followed him and whatever, and like, you made your way to him, and however you got to him, like, as long as you got there, it didn't matter the path you took along the way, all you had to do was get there. So it's like, it's so different to think that like two kids could be sitting in the same classroom and one of them is sitting there terrified beyond belief for whatever may happen because they're going to burn in hell, and the one sitting next to it is just like, oh well, it's okay because God will forgive me for doing the same thing in class. You know what I'm saying?
And then another kid sitting next to them doesn't even believe there is a heaven or hell.
Yeah.
But they're still religious. So there's just so many different types of religion out there, so many different schools, so many different preachers and priests, and all of them were taught something different, because a lot of them do go to school for that. And even every single school doesn't teach the same exact thing. So it's like, who, at that point, who's right? But who am I to say anyone's wrong?
Yeah.
I have no idea. Just be a good person.
Putting it into a child.
It's just the whole guilt and manipulation. That's the point we're trying to get across. Because something like saying Santa is real, and then also telling the kids you're going to get them coal, I think that's kind of messed up too, because that's guilting them. That's manipulation. Like my parents did with the whole putting the coal in the Barbie dream house. I still got that expensive ass Barbie dream house. I just got taught a little lesson that, like, hey, maybe be a better person. But
were
like,
you bad?
Just to get your,
like,
no.
Is that why they did it, or?
I don't remember. I think it might have been a joke, honestly. Because my parents are kind of jokesters, but I don't know. It's funny to me now. But like things like that, people don't understand can manipulate and change the way a kid is. I mean, we all have fucking anxiety. Like, where do you think that came from?
To the very least.
Yeah, exactly. So I don't know.
Well,
it's not just religion in general, it's just the way you bring up your children. And there's obviously a very wrong way to do it. There might not be one specific right way, but I can definitely tell you there's a wrong way.
Yeah. Well, I'm sure 3 days from now, I'll be driving down the road and remember 17 other things that were just off
100%.
the wall crazy I believed as a child that I learned were not, because that's usually how it happens with these topics.
Exactly.
But so to you, the listener, hit us up wherever you hit us up, Facebook, Twitter, Discord, anywhere, and let us know if you believed any of these things or what other off the wall things you believed. Or how you feel about any of our responses to any of this, because we like to hear your feedback and that helps us get prompts for new episodes.
100%. And I think I'm gonna probably be missing a bunch of things because I can't remember jack shit, as you all know by now. Yep. But on that note, we'll talk to y'all next week.
Bye.
Bye.